Good evening. Welcome to Investigator News, and I'm your host, Ellie, and this is Investigator News and World News. But tonight, you know, um, Democrats refuse to vote on the border resolution. They want to go on vacation. Christmas. They want to wait until after to vote on it. And they seem to do this every time a border resolution is put on the table for them. They delay, delay, delay. And this would close off certain portions of the border. Not only that, it would cause less um, migrants into our country. It's a very important show, folks. Um, if you haven't watched the Clarion Project, the third Jihad, that's what we're moving into because it's spoken by not only by uh, Hamas and Hezbollah, Houthi, um, Iran, ISIS. They all talk about this third jihad. What is it? What is this third jihad they're talking about? Well, um, it's to rule America. Now, why do the Democrats really want our borders open? Why? What is it that they want? They want it open. They started with saying they'll do sanctuary cities, come one, come all. Well, now they're bitching about it. Oh, we don't want all these people. It's Abbott's fault. No, it's not Abbott's fault because now Arizona has decided they don't want all the influx that they're getting. They can't handle it. So they might close some of their border check-ins. Abbott's turning them away. So that's leaving the brunt on New Mexico and California. Well, they don't want that either. So what are they going to do? What's the Democrats? What's their plan? I think that's why they want an early vacation so they can get together, just like Nancy Pelosi does, and come up with an answer. Why do they want them in here so bad? Now, a lot of people say, oh, it's for the votes. Well, now realize right now there's no law that they can vote. They have to wait till they become a citizen. But first, they have to see a judge. And if the judge says they could stay in the country, they can. If the judge says no, then they don't become citizens. Now, it takes approximately a year to 5 years to become a citizen, okay? So if it takes 2 to 8 years to see a judge, let's go with the 8-year mark, and another 2 to 5 years, what sense does that make? Well, then they're going to have to say, we'll just let them vote. Well, it's not making it in any state across America. So what's the plan? That was my whole thing. Now, I have done shows on this before, and this is a very important show. I have pointed out, and Karen knows this, and she'd probably even say so in chat, where we had ISIS camps around America. There was 4 of them, then there were 6 of them, and I did another show where there was 8 and 10 of them. Well, you would not believe what the map looks like now. Hundreds. These are jihad camps where they trained them to fight Americans. So what the Democrats say, well, we want it equal all over around the world. Well, it's not equal. Let's say South America or Venezuela, for one. They all left because there's nothing but terrorists there. So they flocked up here. So now it's empty in Venezuela and Colombia and South America. How is that equal if they're all up here? Makes no sense. There's got to be a plan in the making. And what is the plan? The third jihad. We've had the first, we've had the second. And what's the third? It's the final stage. It's the final stage where they said it will start in Jerusalem and will spread to America. And this is spoken by for decades in Iran by the Ayatollah Khomeini and the others in charge. It's spoken of in Syria and Afghanistan and Pakistan. All Muslims talk about this. They have been waiting for the day when they would have enough firepower to attack Israel with all of its might. And isn't that what we're seeing? A plan of 15 to 35-year-old warriors to infiltrate our country by ways of our borders, to walk freely across. They had to wait for that. Because before, with the borders closed, and if Trump closed them, they can't blame Trump no more. They can't blame the GOP no more. They've opened them. They've opened our borders for terrorists to walk freely across, to be taken to Democrat states of protection. And the colleges were Muslim funding through organizations like CARE. We've seen it played out in the UK. Peaceful. They say we're peaceful. But then the no-go zones of hatred and to convince college kids to join their quest. Has it happened? How does the colleges around our nation, the first day of protests, come up with hundreds of flags of Palestinian support? Why are they in jihad garb? The scarves, the hats, the coverings. And to convince the college kids to join their quest. Has it happened? You would not believe when I looked of how many college professors are Muslims. But not just Muslims, extremists, Islamic extremists, to spread hatred to America. And the only reason why I found out is talking to college kids. Yep. They're talking here. They said, "Oh yeah, burn America because we're a racist." Racist against who? Well, it wasn't racist 10 years ago. The colleges weren't racist 10 years ago, but they were planting the seeds. Surprised how many support Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, and more terror groups. Never condemn what they do, led by Islamic extremists. Even in our Congress. Yeah, T-Lob and Omar. I call you a radical, a Marxist, a communist at its finest, to help bring forth what is going on in our country. And to support a no-go zone of hatred and to spew hatred amongst America. Support burning America and what we stand for. Hatred of Christianity is one of the first things Islamic terrorists want from our college students. And I did expose jihad terror camps in America a few years back with ISIS. And since 2020, hundreds of camps have now appeared. Now, how'd that happen under the noses of the FBI, the State Department, CIA, Defense Department, State Department? At least dozens of terror assaults have happened in this country, even on our military bases. Iran with their terrorists, Hamas, Hezbollah, to lead the war. And it's promised. Iran promised it would do this. And planned by Muhammad, written about in the Quran, spoken for thousands of years, unfolding before our eyes. These terrorists are Muslims, and they carry out the attacks in the name of Islam. Islam is the religion. In Israel, we see the attacks in the name of Islam. Arab Muslim armies erupted from Arabia, folks. Where did the Palestinians come from? Egypt, folks, Egypt. They were sent to Israel to fight the Jews. And then they fought and fought for many, many years. And then those were left and had families. That's where Palestinians come from. Egypt. And Egypt don't even want them now. And they conquered a lot of lands when the Arabs came out of Arabia and moved to the Fertile Crescent, eastward to Iraq, Iran, Central Asia, India, west to Syria. Palestine, of course, are from Egypt. They're from North Africa. And from there, they went to Europe and ruled Spain and Portugal. Even a good part of Italy for quite a while. And that was obviously done by peaceful persuasion. We're peaceful Muslims, don't you know? That's not what their own book says. The book says, if they're not Muslim, you kill them. So we've seen, like I said, the first jihad, the second jihad. And when the Turks invaded the Balkans, all the way to the walls of Vienna, and they were able to expand in southeastern Europe, conquering the whole part of the southeast. And we find ourselves today in the third and final phase of their mission. I'm not making this up. This is written in their stuff, in their manifesto, to bring about the domination of their version of Islam. If one wants to find out what's motivating radical Islam, surely it's more sensible to look at what they actually say and what they're doing and what are their intentions actually are. The main goal of the Badger is resistance, is to implement the law of Allah, to fight against the infidels all over the world, and implement one religion across the world. And the world's most popular Muslim nation, a call, they say, for Islamic law. Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. And what does Hezbollah mean? The party of God. Can you see it? Can you feel it? Can you smell it? So we look at the conflicts in India and Chechnya and Gaza, Indonesia, Iraq, Somalia, countless other countries. This is what's the root of the start of the quest. Now, Islam become dominant religion in Sharia law of the land, all these lands. If not, they had a no-go zone. And I call it the no-go zone of hatred. Oh, peaceful, we need our own space. But anybody that steps a little pinky toe into that line, they're gone. The no-go zone of hatred. Unbelievable, but yet thousands of millions of people follow this. And they take it serious. All you need to do is look at the countries like Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Sudan, and Somalia, and places like Gaza Strip. And you'll see those places are human rights disasters. Millions, billions, trillions pour into these countries of aid. And what do they do with them? Underground tunnels. Or disastrous for the people that live there, because if they don't agree to the Sharia law, look at what they did to Iraq. They went place to place, house to house, and said, do you believe in the Sharia law? And they would have to say yes, and then they're taxed. Across the world, we see Christians are having a terrible time of being able to survive. Christians are deliberately targeted in the past 2 years alone, since this administration has been put into effect. Christians are being persecuted, oppressed. Their churches are being burned down. Our own youth doing this. and falling on the words of Islam, being taught hatred of cultures, just like the religion of Islam teaches their youth in the Middle East. It's the same thing, but it's taught in these colleges of ours. Why? Because they're funded. Iran sends millions of dollars to the colleges in our country to teach the way of Islam and Sharia law. It's not just women and children that are repressed in these countries. You would never want the government to find out if you're gay. In a society where radical Islam proof gays are seen to be people with contagious disease, a very bad disease, and must be killed. Sometimes they're blunt, and a ruling system is established. We're going to give them a choice. We could consult and give them a choice. Well, what maybe? Um, uh, Therapy, well, that's not really the idea they have. And tell them to abandon their homosexual lifestyle. And if they don't, either leave or if you want to be here, you will change your ways. If not, you face the punishment as a criminal. What's the punishment? Throwing you off a cliff, electrocution, beheading, torture, just for being gay. And how many colleges across the country? That's what's fighting for them. They're the ones waving those Palestinian flags. They're the ones burning our churches. They're the ones from the college that have joined forces with college students, paid for by Iran to do this. Not only that, CARE. What's CARE? The African American CARE. They took them down a while back because they were so radical. They're the ones that started BLM. Black Panthers were a part of them. If you look at countries like Iran, um, with the homosexuals, they flog them, they electrocute them, they hang them. And that's only because you're gay. Iran and our youth so decided. They're only using it to carry out a protest. They're only using you to carry out the protest and taking down of America. Wake up, youth. Wake up. According to their law, they can lie if it's to promote. They can lie if it's to promote Allah. It's in the Quran. Allah Akbar. When groups like these talk about wanting to create a global Islamic state and Islam dominating the world, realize that they hold the same goals as Al Qaeda and millions of radicals around the world now. And what makes them dangerous? There's no compulsion in Islam. That means they can force it on you, but will force Islamic Sharia in a child's life first. The schools, the colleges. Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world, and there are over 1.3 billion radical Islamic in the world. And they're saying we have hundreds and thousands of them in the United States. That's according to the FBI. That's not my notes. That's not my tallies. That's the FBI saying that. Hundreds of thousands of these radical Islamics yelling Allah Akbar, Allah Allah. Our God is not your God. We are the party of God. Really? Wake up. It's also thought to be the fastest growing religion in America right now. Nearly 25% of Muslims, 25 and to 30, found suicide bombings to defend their religion acceptable. And what's even more scarier is our college students agree. Unfortunately, the mainstreaming quotes American leadership has been in denial. What's happening? Where's the disconnect? And what's the influence? The influence is basically political Islam. They use politics to gain power. Hamas, Hezbollah did. Now in Afghanistan, and we have those in power who were once terrorists. And our government has allowed them in power. That's what Netanyahu's getting pissed off about. Iran gives millions to colleges now to promote, to teach Islamic values, increasing the number of people who either don't see the threat is either clearly or their psychological makeup is going to want them to wish it away and indefinitely here. To overstate the problem, there is a danger. Understating the problem will be our demise. Homegrown Islamic terrorism is not only coming from the outside of the United States, but it's also growing inside our own country. Time magazine even said so. They said Al Qaeda was planning a cyanide attack, which would have killed thousands. And when I checked out FBI and the Department of Defense, State Department, the CIA, the government has stopped hundreds of attacks against the U.S. since 9/11. There are actually two different types of jihad. There's violence, where Islamics use violence to try to overthrow their enemy. And then there is termed the cultural jihad, where the Islamic use laws and rights that are given to society to try to work against the society or the laws of these countries. How do we know it? And overthrow it, folks. How do we know? Because it's happening in the UK. Sharia courts. And then Dearborn, Michigan has Sharia courts. Wake up. America needs to understand the jihadist machine is already within the society of Americans. And they're being told that many of the mainstream groups are also moderate. In fact, you look a little closer, you'll see very different reality of the one of their primary tactics is deception. That's a part of how they implement the third jihad, deception. They present themselves as moderate leaders committed to peace. Peace. Wasn't it in the Bible that said peace, peace, but there is no peace? And they even condemn terror. As Muslims, they do. We want to state clearly that those who commit acts of terror in the name of Islam are betraying teachings of the Quran. That's a lie. Remember I said they could lie. If it's for Allah, Allah Akbar. The Prophet Muhammad, but when asked about specific terrorist groups, officials are either evasive or outright supportive and have the position of, like, let's say, the Palestinians. They can kill, they can behead, they can burn babies. But you know what? That's not what they're about. They're peaceful, don't you know? Islamic Jihad to start the downfall. They openly supported terrorists. The FBI uncovered a secret document that seems to answer this and many questions. This is believed to be the manifesto of the Muslim Brotherhood that was found in North America. Hamas grew out of the Muslim Brotherhood and formed and started as peaceful Muslims in what? Palestinian people. The Islamic Jihad grew out of the Muslim Brotherhood from Egyptian Islamic Jihad movement that grew currently. And it's a movement of Al-Qaeda. Remember Al-Qaeda and the Taliban? For instance, this 15-page manifesto, and this was found in the desert amongst a Muslim that was arrested. Karen, you remember that? I did this story already, and I read the manifesto. It's the strategies of the Muslim Brotherhood and activities in North America to take down America. What did they say? Death to Israel, death to America. On the 7-page document states that their work in America is a kind of grand jihad in eliminating and destroying Western civilizations from within. They're not going to come over and boom and do like what Hamas is doing to Israel. No, no, it's sneaky. On page 7 of the document, it states that their work in America is a kind of grand jihad in eliminating and destroying Western civilizations from within. It speaks about setting groups, mosques, the colleges, Islamic centers to achieve their ultimate goal, which is to destroy the miserable houses of the West. So they will expel that Allah's religion is made victorious over all religions. And at the end of the document, it lists the organizations that help carry out these goals. Not only many groups are still in existence, but there are very many. Today, there are groups who are thought to be modern Muslim leadership in America, but we're finding out, no. These are groups like the MSA, ISNA, the IEP. And where does CARE fit? Well, CARE was basically taken down. CARE started in 1994 and established 3 leaders. Just let me show you something here. Now, I told you that they had organizations all over the United States. There you have it, folks. There you have it. Karen, remember we thought just 8, 10 jihad camps? Look at what they've done since then. What was it, 4 or 5 years ago? Now look at it. I really hope that you guys are very surprised by this. And if you're in an area that those little red dots are, let's see, does this worry you, folks? Does it worry you? Okay, what about jihad camps where they're training them? Oh, there we go. Remember, Karen, there was only maybe 10? Now look. Now look. Islamic terrorist artwork in America. This is where their camps are. This is where their camps are. And this isn't even listing all of them, folks. I really hope this wakes you up. Wake up, America. This is the stuff I've been freaking out over for years. And saying ISIS is coming in our country. Hamas is, Hezbollah. We got Houthi. We got, wake up. Every day, not every day. I have nightmares over this. I even told William about it, that this scares me. This is well documented. This is a front for Hamas, maybe, ISIS, Hezbollah. Who are these people? The cartel? MS-13? Remember, we talked about this last night. So perhaps That would explain why CARE won't condemn, or Democrats won't condemn terror groups like Hamas, and why they avoid participating in any Muslim against terror rally. There are Muslims against terror rallies. And it's basically that we show up, or government officials show up to talk about how to get rid of them out of this country. But weirdly enough, no Democrats ever show up. And in keeping up with the goals of the documents that they got, many so-called moderate Muslim leaders have been caught on tape calling to end America, and that America will become Islam, the new Islam, the new caliphate. What about the prison population? Is generally very fertile ground for the recruitment of these extremists. The more political Islam, the more extreme forms of Islam. Why do they want the prisons? They're going after killers. They're going after people that hurt and maim people and converting them to Muslim. So now that they are recruiting prisoners to become Muslims or Islamic extremists. For 15 years, I knew what was happening, even in these prisons. And I knew nobody else was really watching. I mean, I looked around, and you would not believe how many Google searches I've done. And there's just nothing there that anybody's doing anything. No one's paid attention to the Islamic activists that have fed off of the discontent of the young black males. And now these young black males are looking and saying, what has this government done for us? Nothing. They're using you. They got you on welfare. They got you where they want you. That's what they do over in the Islamic countries. They take everything from you to put you down, to make you nothing, and then say, you know what, Allah, my Allah could save you. In fact, the former chaplain of the New York State Department of Corrections has been caught on tape saying some extremely radical things. That brothers, be prepared to fight, be prepared to die, be prepared to kill for Allah. It's part of being, and this isn't your brother. I tell you, I'm just saying. This is a history that is for the Islamic extremists. And nobody can deny this. This was the start of the BLM and all Muslim Marxists. And how far does it go back? All the way to the Black Panthers. How do you think I learned about it? I seen the Black Panthers training in a place called Grass Valley, California, and it scared the hell out of me. To say they're peaceful protesters only deceive youth into Islamic ways of hatred. Islamabad is one of 50 to 70 compounds in America of an organization called Jihad. Al-Fuqra, this organization actually was over 3,000 members and is mainly most up of individual that's converted to Islam, but that was many years ago. I said 3,000 members back like 7, 8 years ago. It's over 50,000 right now. Many believe Europe is on the verge of a breakdown. It's in a state of denial as much as Europe has to a certain extent to what we're seeing here in America. They're in the state of denial about the nature and extent, but particularly the nature of the threats that we are against these foreign individuals is how our State Department wants to describe them. They're not foreign nationals. They're not foreigners. These are terrorists. And the Democrats just refuse to accept this. And it shows they'd rather live under Sharia law than a democracy. Am I right? The UK has become an Islamic state. An overwhelming 81% consider themselves Muslim first and British second. How did this happen? Karen, how long ago did we see this? We've been around 6 years. This has happened in less than 5 years, folks. The British, have allowed the no-go zone, the Sharia courts, the Sharia laws, and I lost track of one of the guys there that was fighting this, and they kept putting him in prison. I don't know if he left or not. He's disappeared. British Muslims not accept the terms of the settlement, accepted by all other migrant communities. This is a form of subtle threat that you cannot ignore, and it grows gradually. And the moment you recognize it, its existence is like a cancer. It grows slowly, and then you have to accept it because it's there. It's in your face. Do we have that now? How did the Palestinians get them flags? Because they live near the college. We ship them. We ship these Muslims to the colleges. They infiltrate our kids. They convince our kids, hey, let's protest. Yeah, good idea. Here's a flag. They already got the flags. They already got the signs. They already got the plan. They just need the kids. 15 to 30-year-olds. Oh, yeah, and they're right next to the college. How did they get so many protesters so quick? Because the kids love to protest. Yeah, they'll protest anything. If you say, hey, we're going to protest water, they're like, yeah, give me a bottle of water. I'll break it. These kids love it. They eat it up. I don't even think they understand what they're protesting, because when you ask them, they have no clue. They have no clue. Islamists of the world of theocratic Islam stood against American liberty. The Western freedoms that we know that Iran government is working very hard to develop or against. Yeah, it's about freedom. It's about American liberty. It's about us being who we want to be. Well, unfortunately, you guys have been suckered. The colleges have been suckered into doing what Muslim extremists want you to do. And you fell right into their hands. How many adults are with that? Like T-Lob. And they also infiltrate the government. That's one of the plan of the manifesto. Is this Western freedom, or is this a path to Sharia law? Iranian government is working very hard to develop nuclear weapons, as well as other kinds of weapons of mass destruction. And eventually, they're just going to declare war on us. How soon? Well, the protest says it's very soon. When will they turn on us? Oh, well, they're doing it. We just had it in the Congress. They just got through talking to a whole bunch of college those in charge, and they're like, "Oh, we're not doing nothing wrong." Yeah, Allah Akbar. Tensions between Israel and Hamas is not slowing down. Israel saying the other day that Hamas with President Biden, and when he met with Netanyahu, he's flip-flopping. Oh, well, we're going to give Israel all the money, but Hamas will slip you something. Hezbollah Hezbollah is a big part of Iran. And they're growing every day. With most of the university's professors speaking positively about Hamas, this is why so many billionaires are taking the money they no longer putting it into universities and publicly saying we're no longer supporting like the University of Pennsylvania or Harvard because they don't want to be caught supporting them. So how do they get the money to them, you ask? Well, there's plenty of foundations. They give to that and they give to the universities and they got their money. Talk about the history of Hamas and Hezbollah and ISIS, a little bit of Al Qaeda, how they got started, what their motives are, their visions, and that they are a terrorist organization categorically. They are why they are a terrorist organization. I think we need to take a deep dive and learn about their histories. Because if we don't, it's just going to mow us over. And they will take over this country. We will be one big no-go zone. And will you obey the Sharia law? When does a political party become a terrorist organization? When do freedom fighters, and a lot of people saying, me doing this for freedom, am I a freedom fighter? No, and I'm not even wanting to be a hero. They do, but the whole thing is they are becoming freedom fighters, they say. They're the heroes. They become killers. Hamas is a spinoff of the Palestinian branch of the Muslim Brotherhood in the late 80s. The Islamic militant group of Hamas took over Gaza Strip after its rival political party of Fatah, I believe is what it's called, in the elections in 2006. The rival party, which dominated the Palestinian Liberation Organization, or what's called the PLO, and rules in the West Bank, has renounced violence. So again, just to isolate these two, Hamas of pro-violence, Fatah, I believe that's what's called, Williams in here, were not violence. Okay, yeah. We have a different way of going about presenting our argument to the others. So, okay, Hamas, the founder of this was Sheikh Ahmad Yassin, a Palestinian cleric who became an activist in local branches of the Muslim Brotherhood. After dedicating his early life to Islamic scholarship in Cairo, he established Hamas as a Brotherhood political arm in Gaza in December of 1987, following the first outbreak, the first Intifada of the Palestinian uprising against Israel occupation on the West Bank and East Jerusalem. At the time, Hamas' purpose was to counter Palestinian Islamic Jihad. They had seen the first and the second Jihad. So another organization who, the commitment to violence, resisting Israel, threatened to draw Palestinian support away from the Brotherhood in 1988. Hamas established a charter calling for the destruction of Israel and the establishment of Islamic society in historic Palestine. And they call it, we're going to bring back Shar. So this is their vision we talked about. Well, continue what observers call an attempt to moderate its image. Hamas presented a new document in 2017 that accepted the interim Palestinian state along the green line border established. before the Six-Day War, but that still, they refused to recognize Israel. Hamas first employed suicide bombing April of 93. 5 months before, the PLO leader Yasser Arafat and Israel, the Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, signed the Oslo Accord. And then finally in the US in 1997, and the European Union designated Hamas terrorist organization because it armed resistance against Israel, which included suicide bombing, rocket attacks every few months. And that was in 97. Every few months, a rocket attack, a missile attack, the bombings. And Netanyahu, he's fed up. This category for Hamas happened in 97. And today Iran is one of Hamas's biggest benefactors, contributing weapons and training in Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan. Currently provides some 100 million annually to Hamas and other Palestinian groups designated as a terrorist organization by U.S. Hamas. And why do we have this? The FBI's got this in their open records. Did you hear what I said? Hundreds of millions annually by Iran given to Palestine and Gaza. So what are they doing with that money? They could have built up a nice place in Gaza, but did they? No, they built underground tunnels with it. Hamas has fired rockets and mortars in Israel since the group took up over Gaza Strip in the mid-2000s. The group has also carried out incursions into Israel territory, killing, kidnapping soldiers and civilians. Now let's take a look at their violent history to see what they've done in the past, prior to this year. Hamas and Israel had the deadliest fighting in 2021 when Hamas fired rockets into Israel for weeks. My phone wouldn't shut the hell up. It was siren after siren after siren after siren for days. I go to the doctor and people looked at me weird because my phone had sirens. Rockets into Israel followed weeks of tensions between Palestinian Israel and Jerusalem. And during the 11-day conflict, Hamas fired more than 4,000 rockets from Gaza, killing 10 Israeli civilians, injuring more than 300 others. Hamas reportedly coordinated with the IRGC and Lebanon's Hezbollah. The IRGC, Iran Hezbollah, during the fighting, also called suicide drones, along with its usual arsenal of less precise missiles. The United States and Egypt, the broker of a ceasefire. Israel quit. Who's firing on who? 4,000 missiles bombarded. And Israel said enough is enough. And there was an 11-day war. And what did the United States and the UN and the rest of them say? Cease fire, Israel. You're going to hurt people. Really? Anybody talk about that? 2021? 11 day? Only 11 days. That's why Bibi Netanyahu says no this time. No. No, no, no. And it means no. The conflict it was so intense back then. And he said, okay, yeah, okay. Not this time. Now let's talk about Hamas hostages. In addition to Hamas' surprise attack on October 7th, Israel's been taking hostages by Hamas officials from the U.S. and other countries, are determining if their citizens are amongst the captives. You're hearing the number around 250 people. Do you know how many people they took in 2021? Anybody know? Lots, about the same amount. Did we ever get them back? No. What happened to them? Nobody knows. Hamas knows. Even recent Hamas has come out and said, listen, they're figuring out a way to do a ceasefire. They're talking to Israel. We will negotiate to give them some children and women hostages. And if you think the ceasefire they announced, um, for the hostages, they made out. They made out on that. What about the others? What about the 21 hostages? Nobody's asking them about them. So this is Hamas. Allah Akbar, they yell. And of course, the college students, the people over here are saying, yes, kill Israelis. Will they say that when it comes to our country? Well, we talked about Hamas. Let's talk about Hezbollah. What's Hezbollah's history? Because Hezbollah is part of Iran. Hezbollah was doing the streets, not really doing the streets. Many people feared Hezbollah. The history Hezbollah means party of God, is what they consider themselves. That's what Hezbollah means, party of God. Hez, party, Bol is of, Allah is God, Hezbollah. And they consider themselves, Hezbollah is a Shiite Muslim political party with a militant group based in Lebanon, where its extensively security apparatus, political organization, social service network have fostered its reputation as a state within a state. So what is Hezbollah? Well, they were founded in chaos, basically, during a Lebanese civil war. And Iran's backup group is driven by its opposition to Israel and to America, and its resistance of any Western influence in the Middle East. And when we attacked Iraq, it got them going. With its history of carrying out global terrorist attacks, part of Hezbollah, and in some cases entire organizations, have been designated as a terrorist group by the United States, also in 1997. As many countries now, when it becomes down to their military strength in the recent years, long-standing alliances with Iran and Syria have transformed Hezbollah into an increasingly effective military force. It's a bigger, Hamas is like the fly that you could swat. Hezbollah is the military force, one that experts say would pose a challenge in the event of new fighting against its longtime enemy, Israel. Just to put this in perspective, you can look at its number of Hamas with roughly about 20 to 40,000 soldiers. Now, Hezbollah, they say on a low count, 150,000. They say it could be close to 300,000 by the end of this year. Nearly 4 times as powerful as Hamas. They're almost the strength of the Israel military. Israel's massive, but not much bigger than Hezbollah if you think about it. A bigger military organization, Hezbollah has a lot of firepower behind their army. They get way more money from Iran than Hamas could ever dream of. The firepower behind their army that they have. Let me continue with Lebanon's failing At the same time, Hezbollah officials and their leaders in Lebanon are facing public discontent there, and they're only growing stronger. As the nation verges on the failure of Hezbollah's political power, could it be shrinking? The history of Hezbollah's civil war, which broke out in 1975, when long simmering discontent over a large armed Palestinian presence in the country reached a boiling point where a group of Shiites influenced by the theocratic government in Iran. Same thing, we're talking same thing that happened with Hamas. So the region's mayor Shia government, which came to power in 1979, Hezbollah did a takeover with the backing of Iran, and it's a completely different country, not Iran, a completely different revolution, a complete different way of living. And all this happened in 1979, right underneath our noses. Hezbollah took arms against Israel occupation. And so many times when you hear Hezbollah, you'll hear Iran's funding, Iran IRGC. You keep hearing this phrase. The meaning really mean seeing the opportunity to expand the influence of Arab states. Iran, which it stands for Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, is what IRGC means. And they have provided funds and training and building up a militia, which adopted the name Hezbollah. And frequent clashes with rival other militias, such as attack on foreign targets, including the 1983 suicide bombing of the barracks of housing U.S. and French troops in Beirut. And a lot of you might not remember that. I bet William does. The Shiites Arab-Persian divides as established proxies throughout the Middle East. Remember how earlier I talked to Hamas charter and they stand for? Hezbollah has its own manifesto, 1985, that it vowed to expel Western powers from Lebanon, called for the destruction of the Israel state, and pledged the alliance to Iran's supreme leader. And it also inspired that they would get rid of, they would eliminate Israel. And then the third jihad, this is in the manifesto, the third jihad after Israel is America. And they will infiltrate our borders and walk, and they won't have to worry about being checked because it has been made. This is a 1980s, folks. It's going to be made that they can walk into our country without any problems. Lebanese people should have the freedom of self-determination. So again, Hamas, enemy with Western civilization and Israel, the same exact thing with the manifestos, except for Hezbollah said they were going to walk across our borders. They know who the enemy is. And an enemy to them in their own Islamic writings is all of us. If you're not Muslim, then you need to go. And then we have ISIS. Wow. I'm gonna kind of scroll through this kind of quick. How big are they today? Are they still as powerful as they were? Let's talk about the history of ISIS. Now, before I get into ISIS, folks, I want to show you the map once again that I showed earlier. That I got to pull this back over. Of these are mosques that hide these extremists. These are places all over our country that support the Jihad, support the takeover of America. These are, some of them are camps, some of them are mosques, but it's all to take down the United States. And if you didn't get to see it earlier, here it is. This is where they're at, folks. This is where they're at. And here's their camps. Here's their camps where they train. They're walking across our borders, like Hezbollah said. And they go to these camps and they get trained. Trained for what? The takedown of America. It's in their manifesto. FBI has it. They're only following the plan of their God because their God is not our God. Allah Akbar. ISIS is a Salafi jihadist group that has conducted and inspired terrorist attacks worldwide, resulting in thousands killed or injured. Resulting in thousands killed or injured in 2004. Iraq extremist network led by Abu Musab al-Zara merged with Al-Qaeda to form ISIS. A predecessor group called Al-Qaeda in Iraq in 2013. Al-Qaeda in Iraq changed its name to ISIS. 2014, the group separated from Al-Qaeda and declared itself a caliphate. And they took over a vast swaths of territory in Iraq. Remember, they swooped through all the way to Syria. And if you're asked the question, I don't know what a caliphate is, well, the definition is political religious state compromising the Muslim community and the lands that they will take. And they will have dominion over the people for centuries. Following the death of the Prophet Muhammad, now in 2019, an international coalition ejected ISIS from its last stronghold in Syria, they thought. The group continues to operate clandestinely in Iraq despite of losing many of its leaders. And in its territory, ISIS remains capable of conducting insurgent operations and encourage college students from the West, from our country, to come over and join the peaceful revolution. In Iraq and in Syria, while overseeing the last 19 branches of networks they have in Africa and Asia, Europe. And by the way, when you look at their size of one terrorist organization, some would say Hezbollah, had those hundreds of thousands. Hamas is a little smaller. Well, ISIS is only about 20,000, folks. What they're for is to now spread out amongst the world, to get into the United States and set up and start training camps all over the country. You know where they're not? China. They're not in China. They're here. Many thought, well, the West would be China. They don't like China. Well, yeah, China has given them money too. China is also giving our colleges money to recruit our youth into the Islamic extremist groups to take down America. So they're operating areas pretty much northern and eastern Syria and northern Iraq. Their tactics targets issues of and using target killings, IED attacks, ambush, military style, and kidnapping and suicide attacks in Iraq. They also are the ones down helping Houthis and training them, recruiting their youth, bringing them over from not only Africa but Oman and Saudi Arabia. They help them to ambush military-style assaults, kidnaps, suicides, um, and this is what they do in Iraq and Syria. Also encourages worldwide to conduct operation in their own countries. ISIS mostly attacks military targets, civilian defense forces, our government, to get into our government and personal infrastructure, and to get the American government to side with the Muslims because they're peaceful, don't you know? Houthi, the Houthi. Who are Houthi? Well, we know them from Libya. We know them from Yemen. This is the new up and coming. That they have been trained. Once they're trained, they move them over. They teach them at least 3 different languages because they can walk across the border, because it's so easy to get to South America from how they're shipping them on the boats and ships. When we seen the boats and the ships coming across and dumping them off, there was about 1% women or children on these boats. It was all men, ages 15 to 30. They could speak 3 different languages. And they disappeared. And with the help of the cartel. The cartel took very good care of them. Cartel helped them to walk across our border. How many are here? Well, you seen the map. All those little dots, I'm pretty sure that there's hundreds in each one of them little dots that I showed you on our map. These groups have been growing since about 2004, probably earlier. They said 1979 for some of them. And they've infiltrated the Islamic extremists into the Black Panthers, into the BLM, into our colleges, into our youth, and now being taught in our high schools. Have our government stopped them? And when you think about the Democrats, as I started this program off, they don't want to address closing the border till after the holidays. No, let's not do the resolution, they said. Why? What is it the Democrats want? Are they a part? Are they, we need to find out what their religions are. Are they Muslims? Are they Islamic extremists? I truly believe if you're from Gaza and you're in a political party in this country, you're an Islamic extremist. Yes, Tilab, Omar. You don't start a no-go zone and not be an extremist. They infiltrated our politics now. And when you look at the squad, you're looking at the extremist. Will it spread through our political party? It could. The 2024 election is going to be very important, folks. If we don't get rid of find out who these people are, if we don't shut these colleges off from teaching our kids that death to America, isn't that what they're promoting? They're burning our flags, folks. They're tearing down our statues. They're burning down America. As the Democrats sit by and smile, and they do a toast to one another, how their plan is working out well. Was this their plan? The manifesto says so. They said that parts of our government is a part of the plan. and has been since the Clintons. Yeah, something I learned in looking at the Clintons. I know them well. Yep. But see, it was supposed to be China coming over here. Now what are we seeing? China's coming over here. China's taken over certain places, certain businesses, manufacturing, farming, everything, as Hezbollah walks across our border. Are we looking at a war with what Israel is seeing? Do we know where they're at? We do. We do. Well, the FBI does. Are they going to tell us? Are they going to warn us? I doubt it. They didn't warn us about 9/11 when they knew about it a week or two before. They let people climb on them planes. We have to start looking very closely at our political parties. Am I finding Republicans? Yes, yes. And not all of them are Democrats, folks. When you have the Republicans agreeing, hey, let's go on vacation first. Let's not close that border. The reason they don't want to close the border off is because they know they're bringing terrorists into this country to take America down. My chat, do you guys have any questions before I close? I know there was quite a few people in here, quite a few people just listening. Put your questions in the comments the next few days. This tonight is very important, folks. If you want to learn more about this, go to the Clarion Project and take a look at the third Jihad. You might have to find it online because it's not going to be in YouTube, folks. You got to go to the site. Granted, it was made quite a few years ago, but when I spoke to them this morning, they said it's worse. They said when they first put out this documentary, it was light. They said right now it's scary. And our kids are being flamboozled. They're only being used. It's like I told you about the gay. They're only being used for their own agenda. That's what the Islamic extremists do. The Clarion Project, yes, Linda. ClarionProject.com. There's many, many videos. They'll even show, there's even videos to show you how they train babies to kill. I'm talking 3, 4, 5. And there's there's all kinds of videos, but it's called the Clarion Project. Now, I was turned on to that because a gentleman had got a hold of me quite a few years ago on this when I was doing showing the training camps of ISIS in this country. And there was, like I said, there was only about 8, 9, 10 of them. Am I right, Karen? William says they say what they intend to do, and that's true. It's written. Their manifesto says it. The Quran says it. They spew what their hatred and what they want to do. And what is it? Death to Israel, death to America. We're next, folks. So Linda, look up the Clarion Project and watch some of the videos. Watch the third Jihad, and it will open your eyes. A lot of those videos will open your eyes. Some of them are old. Some of them are new. And I thank this gentleman. He's a Muslim. Is all Muslims bad? No. But in the long run, when it comes down to the choice, if you're not Muslim, then you're beheaded. They will kill you. And that's what it says in their own Quran, by their own Allah. Their God is not our God. And the terrorists, Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, they're not the party of God, because it's not written that they're going to kill people in our Bible. You've got our Bible, they got their Quran. Good versus evil in the end times. So With that, folks, I'm going to go ahead and close and share this. People need to know about this. I have been doing this for a very, very long time. Here we go. That's the Clarion Project, yes, for those that want to go look. It's all documented. It's all documented, folks. The FBI, you go look. They list, I think, ISIS and Hamas and a few others as terrorist groups. But then when we see our president and we see some of the Congress and Senate, oh, they're peaceful. No, they're not. No, they're not. They hurt people. They kill people. They kidnap people. They blow people up. They kill kids. I don't want to be no part of that. And I think these are sick individuals here that want to wave that flag. Yes, if they want to save the Palestinian people, go over there and save them. Go over there and save these people if you wanted to save them so bad. And you'll find out they're going to chop your head off too. Yep, that's it. That's the way. That's what's written in the manifesto. All right, folks, that is it for tonight. I hope you share the program, subscribe, and hit the like, thumbs up. Smash that bell so you can get more programs like tonight. And like the one we had last night, me and William. That was an awesome show. Tomorrow is Friday. If you just want to, forget, listen, I just want to calm down and have some fun, come on back for some trivia tomorrow night. Trivia is going to be great. I stumped them last week. Let's see who will win this week. So with that, folks, have a wonderful Thursday. And go take a look at some of the things I told you tonight. It's not going to be death to America. Nope. As long as there's people that watch this show and people around this country that says, hell no, we're going to get them. We stand up and we stand up and we fight for what we believe in and our God.